Hello, Chantel, adult programmer with the Airdrie Public Library. Some of you would know me from Art Saturdays as well as the adult craft nights and some of the writers' workshops. I'm hoping you're all finding a new rhythm to these ever-changing days. One thing that shouldn't change is your time for creativity and play. I'm going to start bringing a series of short videos on some easy projects which you may have all the supplies you already need at your home or are extremely reasonably priced. The project I am going to show today, if I had to buy everything, was price point at around $10, and I found everything at the local Dollaramas. All of these projects are also suitable for an older child or a teen, but I strongly recommend that you adults find time for your own downtime and your own time to create and have some fun. Okay, so today we're just upcycling. We're taking something in the house that is no longer used, and we're just tweaking it to give it a new purpose. So for example, these old plastic cereal bowls are sitting in the back of the cupboard. They're all scuffed. They're all got cracks from the heat of the dishwasher. No one's using them. With a few little supplies, I can tweak it and just give it a new purpose in the house. It's still a good bowl, don't want to throw it out, so we'll just make it new again. So for the projects, just some basic things. You would need paper, or I sometimes use napkins. In this case, I had used an old book, magazine, or a newspaper. You need a glue gun, or you can get away with just normal glue, but glue gun's really handy. Your scissors, your paintbrushes, an old bowl. If you had to buy one, again, these are $2 at Dollarama. They come in different shapes and sizes, so you can get really creative if you wanted to go this route. I used cord and rope. Again, you can find at Dollarama. You can use yarn, but yarn is really tricky to use when you use glue. It gets messy, it dries really hard and crunchy. It's not as nice. If you want to go for it, go for it. I'm not that skilled, so I stick with the larger cord. Okay, so we'll just get myself prepped here, and then we'll get started on some step-by-steps. So the first thing you want to do is take your bowl and clean it out with a little bit of rubbing alcohol or the isopropyl alcohol. Also making sure you get around the edges, and that's going to remove any of the grease from your hands and dirt, and it's going to allow your glue to stick a lot better. Now you have two options. You can go for the glue sealer finisher, such as the Mod Podge or the Decoupage. Dollarama sells these nice little ones. If you don't do a lot of projects, a little goes a long way, so it's worth the money. Just read the labels, because they do come in gloss or in matte. If you don't want to go that route, just good old-fashioned white school glue with a touch of water in it will do the same job. You want it the consistency of acrylic paint. If your glue is too gummy, it's going to grab and rip your paper. And obviously if it's too runny, it's going to wreck your paper and not seal properly. So in that case, just add a touch more glue till you're happy. So in this case, I just used newspaper and some old books I had, and just ripped and cut the pieces and just layered them till I was happy with the look, making sure that you go over the edges, and then sealed it. I'm currently working on, for Easter, for a place to put all my chocolates other than in my mouth. My Easter bowl, I decided to go with the seasonal napkins. If you're going to use a napkin, I recommend that you separate the layers. If you forget, it's not a big deal, but sometimes once you seal it down, the layers will separate and then you'll have bubbles. So the concept is very easy. I'm just going to get some glue here. For napkins as well as the newspapers, you just want to put a thin little layer on. And you just want enough so that it will grab the paper. And tissue paper, because it's so thin, as well as the napkins and the newspaper, it doesn't necessarily always go on smooth, especially napkins and tissue paper. So if you don't like that textured look, just don't go this route. So just use your hands and get it down how you like it, making sure that there's bubbles out. And again, you always kind of want to work from the middle outwards to get it all sealed. If you overwork your thinner papers or use too much glue, it will tend to rip them, and it just leads to frustration. So a little goes a long way. Just take your time until you've acquired the look that you want. Again, going over the edges, and then let that dry. I recommend that you seal this twice. So your sealer glue once, let it dry completely, and then do it a second time to seal. This next bowl, there's absolutely no rhyme or reason for the pattern. I was just showing an example of when I used harder scrapbook paper or the fancier papers. They can be a little harder to use. They are a little unforgiving when you go around curves or in sort of circular patterns. They don't like to lie flat, which is why all my pieces are very small. But the concept is very much the same. You're going to put on your thin layers here. You want just enough so that it grabs. You're going to work that in where you want it. It does tend to fight back the thicker paper because it doesn't necessarily want to bend. So just kind of get her there. And then lightly add a bit more glue. Again, trying to work out. You don't want to push too hard. It will often slide your paper and then you're starting all over again. So you can go ahead and finish your look or your pattern. Again, going over the edges and let that dry. And again, I recommend 2 layers of the sealer, completely drying in between. Okay, so I've now put 2 coats of the sealer on my quick little demos for you. And I waited about 3 hours in between the coats just to make sure that it was drying properly. And while I was looking for cords, I came across some rhinestones, I found some sequins, for some reason I had a bag of buttons. So you're certainly not limited to any cords or ropes around the outside of your product. Whatever you have, just use and be creative. Now, I do recommend that you use a glue gun for the outsides. They're pretty inexpensive at your local craft stores. Your school glue just won't cut it. It takes too long to dry, and it's not strong enough to hold anything properly on the outside of your bowl. So again, I recommend the glue gun. Now, if you're going to use a cord or a rope, first of all, I recommend that you take off your sticker. That would help. And you put a little anchor point at the bottom, and then another anchor point straight at the top. And then from here, you simply just add your glue. You don't need one continuous stream of glue. You just need a few little anchor beads to put it in where you want. And do not get too ahead of yourself. The glue dries fairly quickly. You want to work while it's still a bit warm so that you can manipulate your cord so it lays exactly how you want it to. And just add a little bit more. And then just keep continuing around the bowl. I only have a short piece here for demo purposes. If I was actually doing it, I would just keep working off the full line. As you go around the bowl, just pulling it tight over the anchor rope. You won't see this at the end. It'll be a very small little speed bump where you had first started. Continue around to the bottom. When you get to the bottom, same process, just keep gluing and spinning and anchor your end in tightly just with some extra glue. Usually if there's any mistakes, it's about the bottom and no one's going to see it anyways. And that's it. This is a very simple, quick little craft. I encourage you to use what you have in the house and to be extremely creative. You don't need to be artistic or crafty to do crafts. You just need to go and give it a try and have some fun. I encourage you to post any products that you make and just let us know what you use them for. So go have some fun, Airdrie.